Picture this, signing glyphs right outside the Victor. Any girl in the world you can get next to. Have her in curls or laid back in sweats. Being on stage, collecting those checks. Everything got a price, that's right. What would you give to spend a day in the life? Platinum and ice, champagne flutes. Damn, that sound nice.
Good afternoon, guys. It is Chris M here, School of Struggle in full force. Once again, I'm sitting here with a very big surprise, and Marc and Zah are back with me today for the first time in a long time. Very fucking excited to have them on with me. It's been a while, like I said. We got an opportunity to catch up quite briefly last week, but haven't had an opportunity to sit down and do a podcast together. So, boys, what's going on? How are we?
Very well.
Very well. How are you?
Mate, I'm sensational, as per usual. Just very, very, very happy to be back here and actually in the hands of two of the best people that I know.
We're excited. We're excited to come back.
Yeah, 100%, man. I just knew it'd be a fucking... This is something that people would be able to take something away from too. Everyone always asks me what's going on with the boys. How are they?
Well, so we thought you didn't like us anymore, Chris.
Oh, mate, it's just been busy.
We've been sad, and when you told us that you wanted to do a podcast, we got really, really excited.
Well, that's why I thought on Sunday night I put the word out as well. You know what I mean? So I'm glad to be here again, and I'm sure that we've got some great value to provide to some other people. But what's been going on with your boys? I know that you guys have started a podcast as well, the Grow Your Future podcast. How's that been going?
Look, it's good. It's a podcast that includes my wife as well.
Oh, awesome.
So we mix a lot of corporate culture, entrepreneurial mindset, and a lot of lifestyle-based stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's based around mindset,
Mm-hmm.
getting people prepped for business, corporate life, and just being able to get through their day-to-day operations without killing themselves. It's a hard world out there, you know what I mean?
Hard world.
Business can be quite lonely and all sort of stuff as well, right? So,
well, it's one thing I guess like a lot of people don't get into is a lot of people talk about depression in other areas of life.
Yeah.
One of the biggest depressions out there, or causes of depression, is from entrepreneurship.
Didn't they mention something about that at that event last week? I'm pretty sure someone said something about one of the highest suicide rates of the statistics that they'd seen had a lot to do with people that were like lonely from entrepreneurship or something like that too.
I think Gary Vee says it. I'm not too sure if he said it in last week's event.
But I've heard, I'm pretty sure I've
heard him say it.
Someone mentioned it before.
At a keynote, where it's the type of depression no one talks about.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because the media want to publicise a lot about the glitz and the glam, because that's what people want to read. People don't want to read about the failed businesses.
Correct.
Or anything like that. And unfortunately, the majority of businesses fail.
Yeah, correct.
Right? And I've been through a lot of failures in my time in business, and I've gone into depressed states.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And,
I've had to, and that's the way I turned to personal development, to train my mind to be stronger, to get through those tough times. And, business acts in peaks and troughs.
Yep.
And, you're going to probably have more troughs than peaks, right?
Yeah.
And, so I think, what we want to do from these podcasts, even your one, Chris, with the School of Struggle, is that teach people that, there are going to be struggles.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
100%.
There are
And
going to be hard times.
And there's just going to be a strategy on how to get through that too, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's obviously, it's got a lot to do with just believing in your cause and actually going through the motions, because there is a brighter day.
Of course.
As long as you're not silly about it at the same time too. Don't have pipe dreams, because obviously that's not going to help anyone at all.
We need a plan.
You need a plan, of course you do. Yeah. Of course you do. And it makes a massive difference when you do as well. But what else has been happening? Obviously the podcast is up and running, and it's going well, is it?
Look, it's going well.
Yeah.
We're getting a few listeners on it. And
cool.
We're getting a lot of good feedback on
Yep.
it. It's more of a consistent thing.
Yeah.
We're doing it every week. I mean, we do it in between strategy meetings. It's just a routine now. But other than that, business is good. We're trying to wrap up a few deals before the end of the year.
Yep.
We've got a lot of big picture stuff coming on in 2016.
Cool.
So, our time is taken up.
2016?
Look,
2019?
What
No,
did I
18
say?
next year. You said 2016.
Did I? I'm sorry. I mean, 2018.
18, yeah. That's okay.
I'm
going to say, that's mad.
Yeah.
Has it come to fruition yet?
Anyway, so we're trying to wrap up a lot of different things before the end of the year, and hit the ground running for 2018.
Of course. Same here, in all honesty. I've got a few big things planned for next year too, and I've a few things I've sort of led on in the podcast so far over the past couple of weeks, and it's exciting, you know what I mean? So getting a lot more leads coming at the same time too, and it's just through providing the right sort of aid to the people that are listening at the same time as well, right? So, and I assume that's what's happening with your podcast too. I assume there's some leads coming onto the stuff as well, which is beautiful because obviously you're providing the right value to the people that want to be listening to as well. And
I think it's and you'll find this. It's not just a podcast. I think it's just
there's a lot more than just that, but it's a good generator as well.
It's a piece of the puzzle.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And, you know, like just like you with the articles that we write.
Yeah, correct.
With
Correct.
the videos, you know, like the constant sort of documenting of our stories and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, people like seeing that. You
Correct.
know, they form a relationship with you. There's trust. You know, and I've learned sort of. I'm learning so much. You know what I mean? And you guys are, you know, much further ahead than I am with the social media side of things and all of that sort of stuff. But look, it's an interesting platform because you can reach so many people.
Yeah,
I love
of
it,
course,
you know?
of course. And if you understand like the digital marketing side a little bit more, you can actually work out how to reach the exact client that you want to talk to as well, which I'm learning more and more myself now too, you know what I mean? Because it's really interesting. You can fucking pick someone out almost and target directly to them. It's really kind of cool.
You couldn't do that 15 years ago.
You couldn't do it 2 years ago. You know what I mean? Like you actually couldn't.
It's really, we really are living in the best time.
Oh, 100%. Especially if you want to be an entrepreneur, this is the time to be doing it. You know what I mean? So this is legitimate the time to be doing it. But you just have to upskill yourself to make sure that you're going to stay ahead of the people that are already doing it at the same time. Or
it's competitive, isn't it?
Oh, it's super competitive. Super competitive. I'm sure you guys have noticed that too, and I definitely notice it as well. But it's just upskilling yourself to stay ahead of the pack, or outsourcing, and being resourceful with the people that are around you at the same time too.
Well, look at that event last week. The event was filled with so many hungry, you know, entrepreneurs and people who wanted to just do their own thing.
Yeah.
I just don't remember seeing that type of sort of crowd 5-10 years ago. And I've been in business for 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so I've never seen so many people really want to give it a crack. And
Yeah.
it's just...
Because it hasn't been as easy either.
Yeah.
As to do it now.
Yeah, it was really hard. They didn't have access to the information, you know.
There's one thing I wish I did more at that event. It's probably network. Didn't do a lot of it there. Obviously, I was there for the content and all the stuff as well. So I just thought doing that, taking as much away from it as I could. And I networked probably 10 people, got 10 different business cards and just spoke to different people. But it's a really good breeding ground for that. You know what I mean?
Well, you're surrounded by like-minded people.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
Like,
correct.
how often are we actually surrounded by like-minded people?
Pretty rare.
You know, it is
Pretty rare.
You know?
Especially when we're all, you know, straight down the line. We know what we want to do and we know what we want to achieve. How many people look at you funny for that? You know what I mean? Like,
almost everyone. Almost everyone. So it's nice going to... I mean, how many people were at that Gary V, Mark? That, you know, you would have known how many.
I don't.
oh, the actual event itself? I think...
1,000, I reckon.
Yeah, for sure.
So to get in the same room with 1,000 people who are like-minded, you know, in terms of business...
Correct.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
Correct.
And that was during a work day.
That was a Wednesday.
That
was a Wednesday.
How many other people
They asked everyone to be there from 7:30 a.m. and everyone left at 6?
No,
Or thereabouts. It's a long day too.
Yeah.
Especially because there's fuck all food around there as well, so everyone's hungry and tired at the same time too. And Gary was on last.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So
So
the best till last.
yeah, of
When's
course.
the next one? Because I'd love to go to the next one. You know, and
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't think there's obviously more from Success Resources, but there's
I don't know about specific people. I tend to go to more of those when there's, you know, obviously a keynote from someone that I want to listen to or that I have any idea of. The first one I went to was earlier this year, the Arnold Schwarzenegger one. And that was sick. There's some great people.
I heard that was a good one.
It actually was. The people that were there gave some great value just on, you know, their businesses that they had as well. There was a few UFC fighters that did keynotes, and there was a few other people that were selling at the same time too. But you actually learn a lot too. You know what I mean? Like from this specific one, obviously there was 6 speakers, and I took something away from each one, which is great at the same time too. You've just got to make sure you structure everything so you actually don't forget about your actual work that you have to do too. Because there's a few people that I knew that were there that actually said that they're not going to go to any for a while because it's putting them behind in their own work. But I guess that's what it comes down to, upskilling, and that's used as a day where you actually just learn shit too. You know what I mean? So it's just a balance on that side at the same time too. Yeah, with the 6 people that we saw there, one being Gary V, obviously it was fucking great. You know what I mean? Like some great sales guys, some great marketing people, and I think some that Scott Harris guy is a great speaker as well. You know what I mean? So it was really interesting to see how differently they did things at the same time too. But I thought it was a great event.
You know what else? The good thing about that event was it proved to us that everything that, for example, Gary V spoke about on the day, is nothing different to what he speaks about in his free content that he gives out.
Correct.
all the time. You know what I mean? So this is a perfect perfect example for everyone to really understand that, wow, the content is out there. I just got to go look for it. You know what I mean? I've got to find the right people that I resonate with, and et cetera, and go hard with it, because it's, as I said, we didn't need to buy tickets to hear what Gary Vee told us that day.
To be fair, everything you said we probably all heard before.
Of course.
Like, we were there just to see it live in person, and that was cool too, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, we've all been listening to for quite some time. And I was, a person that I was there with was quite disappointed that was exactly what was done. And I sort of related it back to, it's no different to going to a fucking music concert. Like, you were going to watch an artist play at that point. It's the same content over and over again, but they just brought a new album out. You know what I mean? Like,
look, we're extreme cases of consumers.
Correct.
Of content.
100%.
So, like, our listeners out there, or your listeners as well, Chris, you know, like, they're not probably hardcore consumers like we are. Like, they're probably just, they might be mad supporters of us.
Yeah.
So I think for our listeners out there, you know, if you do get a chance to go to these type of events, like, jump on them.
Oh, of
Because
course, 100%.
Yeah, they don't happen that frequently.
100%.
Really. There's not enough of them, especially here in Australia.
Every couple of months, there is one where I see where there's been promoted properly anyway, you know what I mean? Or it depends. I think there's a few around the country if you're happy to fly to different states at the same time too. You know, flights aren't going to cost too much, and the event, if you're just going for the dates, it's not going to cost you anything in accommodation as well.
Usually the events are free because they are selling something on the day.
Correct.
But even if you just go for free and don't buy anything, like, there's always
something away.
Yeah,
like,
there's always something to take away.
We're sitting here with my book from the event right now, and I've got 16 pages of notes. You know what I mean? So one of those is stuck in my brain, certainly. You know what I mean? Like, I'm guaranteed to have walked away with more value for the $49 ticket that I paid for, sat there, listened to people for 10 hours straight. You walk away with something.
I think this is also a good point that you bring up the pages. Like, all these people in the seminars always say, write down something. You got to hear it, you got to see it, you got to actually
100%
for it to sink in. This is good for our listeners out there as well. You know, like, maybe get yourself a pen and paper, rewind this podcast back to the start, or other podcasts, and actually start taking down some notes rather than just listening to it.
I wholeheartedly agree on that too, because I think one of the biggest things that's helped me, other than execution of things, obviously being the most important, is taking notes on what you've listened to in a podcast or in, you know, whatever it might be, whatever you're listening to, and just practicing it after you've actually learned it properly at the same time too, or go to learn more about it, whatever it is, and then implementing it after that. But if you were to rewind this and take away your key points and all the stuff, and then go research on those and then go execute after that, you've got a 10 times more chance of actually, you know, getting further in life or whatever it is, the area that you're trying to, you know, move forward in, than someone who doesn't.
So, Chris, what was the biggest takeaway for you on the day?
So, for me, I think one of the biggest things that I took away from that specific event was the benefit of outsourcing a lot of different things that you aren't the best at. You know what I mean? Like, as a coach coming from a sales background, I know that my skill set and what you should double down on is your best skill set too, right? So I'm a great salesperson. I've got moderate to good marketing capabilities as well. Coaching style, I've learned off some of the best coaches at the same time too. So I should double down on stuff like that and outsource the rest of it, because if I'm wasting time on that stuff, it's going to be much harder for me to be really good at the stuff that I'm good at. So I think one of the biggest things I took away from that, the biggest takeaway, is 100% outsource to trusted people that are able to help you in your journey, because the task that you've given them is their strong point too. So with the team around you to actually help move as a unit, you're going to go much further than if you're trying to do 30 things yourself at once. So that was that VA service, which I found quite affordable based off what they did for you at the same time too. Obviously lead generation and, you know, different parts of marketing and all to the stuff too. I found that to be fucking sensational actually. So I think the biggest thing that I personally took away was using a service like that. I have used VAs in the past, and some of them are fucking great and some of them suck. You just got to make sure that you profile. It's like hiring anyone, you know what I mean? So you got to make sure you profile correctly and get the right person for the job. But I think that's something that most people can take away from too. Of some of my clients recently, I've actually had to ask them to scale down on some stuff so they can actually put their team in place. So when they actually do get a chance to scale up, or when they choose to scale up properly, that's when they can actually do it properly without frying their fucking brains. Because the amount of people that take the time or that don't take the time to do that and then try to wear 13 different hats, they fry their brains. So I think the biggest takeaway that I got was just using those services like the VAs, because you can get it for fucking peanuts as well. It's not going to cost you anything in comparison to hiring a normal person that it's going to work for you. And I think that was the biggest takeaway for me. I love the idea of that, and I've implemented it since too. So
you're using that now?
I'm not using that specific service, but I'm using another VA, and I've just actually I'm hiring at the moment for a marketer.
Okay.
I'm in talks with one guy at the moment. We'll be talking a little bit further on that point too, which is quite cool. So I'm just doubling down on what I know I'm good at, because I know I'm fucking good at it, and upskilling what I need to, and then outsourcing what I know I don't need to know myself at the moment, if there's people out there that can help.
So for the listeners out there, what would your advice be in terms of outsourcing, I guess their weaknesses?
Okay, so I'd probably find out what your strengths are. Firstly, you want to make sure that you know what your strengths are, and then once you've got that in place, I'd write out a list of every weakness that you have that you know that you have at this point at the same time too. Then go and ask this is a Gary Vee strategy actually. I did this next part. Go and find out of the top 5 people that you have trust in around you, asking what your strengths and weaknesses are. So that way you have a list of the top 5 people around that you'll actually be able to say, I'm fucking good at these things. So let's double down on those. And the rest of these things, if you can put a job title next to that, and you can bunch, 3 of these things come under one specific thing, like one specific job title and all the stuff, you've got a list of jobs there that you need to outsource. You know what I mean? So really make the effort to work out exactly what you're good at. For me, it's sales, coaching, and, as I said, moderate to good in marketing when it comes down to it. Lead generation, I'm quite good at the same time too, but it's not something that I need to do if I'm going to try and close more than anything else at the same time as well. So if you were to look at the things that I would be needing to outsource, it'd be more the marketing stuff, because, as I said, I'm moderate to good at it, but there are people out there that are much better at it. The lead generation side of it too, because obviously that's going to come through the marketing at the same time as well. Someone to help some of the accounting side at the same time as well. Like I'm not the world's best at looking after my own money. I've had a lot of money coming in at some points and a lot of money disappearing at some points. So using something like an accounting software or something like that will definitely help at the same time too.
Especially when you got heaps of cash like you, Chris.
No, but when you've got more money coming in than you know that you've had before at the same time as well, it's obviously going to be hard to know what to do with it in the same time as well, and especially if you've got big taste and all sort of stuff as well.
Well,
I've scaled back a lot because I've spent a lot of stupid money in the time.
But your concentration needs to go towards obviously sales and bringing in the money. Right?
Correct.
And then
Correct.
What you do with the money is kind of need to outsource.
Correct.
that.
Correct. So that, and then just really doubling down on what you're good at, and then finding out what you're not good at through the people that are around you at the same time as well, and really finding out what those jobs are and outsourcing those. And how would you do that? Go put ads up on services like Upwork or Fiverr that can actually do that for you too.
So, to summarize,
yeah,
probably in 2 words, self-awareness.
Oh, 100%. Self-awareness is huge on that. I couldn't agree more when it comes down to it, because obviously if you're not self-aware, then you don't know you probably don't know what you're going towards in the first place anyway. You know what I mean? So, that would be the biggest thing that I took away from it. What about you?
Look, the biggest thing that I took away from it is didn't take that much away from the other speakers other than Gary Vee.
Okay.
Only because I've signed up to half of them already previously, and I've already sat through their seminars.
Yeah.
So I know already, what they were word for word, they were the same. But what Gary Vee said was that really resonated with me was that big corporations haven't gone into the social media space yet, like we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And once they do, it'll end up be like TV and radio.
I remember this too, 100%.
And I was like, because I hadn't heard him say that before.
And he's sitting there talking about the cost of this right now is nothing in comparison to what it's going to be.
It's like it's a cracker deal right now,
100%.
right?
That and influencers and stuff as well. Man, I agree.
But but in say 5-6 years time, once the Coca-Colas and the big corporations like the Microsofts and or whoever, right, come in and start utilizing these mediums, what's going to happen? It's going to push the prices up of that space, and what's going to happen is that it's going to be unattainable for people like us.
Correct. Yeah.
So what we need to do in that window, which we don't know what that window is, could be 5 years, could be 2 years, so we don't know. We need to take advantage of that.
Correct.
And utilize that for our own businesses now. And that was the biggest takeaway for me,
Yeah.
because I always knew that.
I fully agree with that too, actually.
Yeah.
Fully.
So for me, like I was like, you know what? I understand it, I get it, but I don't know why I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? That's one thing I love about Gary Vee. He just has this sort of futuristic vision.
Yeah.
That's so clear.
I'd love to know with Gary where he gets his information from. You know, man. Like obviously he has people that work for him.
Crystal ball.
Well, yeah. a crystal ball that has all those electrodes going through it at the same time too. You know what I
get
mean?
one of them.
Because obviously he must have mentors and all sort of stuff too. You know what I mean? Obviously, it'd be interesting to see where he gets his information from, and then just go on and try and learn off those people too. You know what I mean? But obviously, Gary's.
I don't think he has any
No,
mentors.
yeah,
Because he doesn't read any books. He doesn't like even look at his own content. He just comes up with it on his own. He just constantly executes all the time.
There'd have to be direction from somewhere though at some point. You know what I mean? Like
Maybe he's just gifted.
he may very well be. He may very well.
I don't
be.
know. Like,
He
because
may-
I don't hear him talk about anyone else.
True.
You know what I mean?
Very
Like,
true. Except his family, and yeah. That'll be the only other
Maybe
thing.
he's got this, this wife that we all don't know about. We
Yeah.
don't. You know what I mean? He keeps a secret in a dungeon.
So, given that, what would your advice be to people that are looking to actually, use those services for the next 6 years before the price gets higher than they should be?
This is a conversation Mark and I have on a regular basis because we're massive on personal brand.
Yeah.
Personal brand's everything to us because, that's, especially in the industry that we're in, it's service based.
Yeah.
So it's basically our billboard for our business. And we see people who are in the same industry or the same sort of style of business, and they don't really care about their personal brand. And I'm like...
So when you say personal brand, just for the people that are listening, do you mean your own Zah Azmi brand?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
cool. Beautiful,
and
beautiful.
People, like this is bringing it back...
people might automatically have thought Luxland then. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
that's why I'm bringing it back purely just to...
On the
Because
person.
everyone can
Of course.
relate to
100%.
personal brand on social media. And
100%.
Then obviously, if you want to get a bit more advanced, do that for your business, right?
Correct.
But, as something as so simple as personal brand, I think, why aren't they taking advantage of it? Everyone's trying to get ahead some way in some shape or form, in business or their work or whatever it is. Like even Jade, for example, my wife, who, has an executive role with a big corporation, she needs to advertise herself as someone who's quite credible in that industry,
Correct.
right? So if an employer looks at her over someone who doesn't have a personal brand on social media, then they're probably going to go with her.
Correct.
Because she's advertised herself as a thought leader in the industry. And anyone can do it. It's free. You know what I mean? It doesn't cost anything.
Just takes a bit of a strategy.
Imagine if it were like 15 years or even 10 years ago, right? And we're like, imagine if we could do what we can do today. We have access to what we can do today. And it's just amazing that so many things are underutilized. And I'm guilty of it as well. Like I don't utilize LinkedIn enough, for example.
Yeah, I keep forgetting to use that.
Yeah,
probably
like
too,
it's
I logged in yesterday. It was like fucking 19 messages. Like, God,
Yeah,
that's mad. I'm like, I
not
can't
on-
believe I missed that. You know what I mean?
I'm
Like,
not on Twitter when,
Yeah.
I don't know how Twitter's performing. I don't even know anything about it. But we have access to all of these platforms. And, even I get not lazy, but I get a little bit ignorant to go, I don't need that. And I think a lot of other people get like that as well. And we should
I think
all
I
be
think
taking
everyone
advantage
tends to
of it.
double down on Instagram at the moment because obviously
Instagram's
they say that it's probably the most fulfilling, quote unquote, for someone to actually use it because you get the most likes the quickest at the same time too. For the average person using it,
I agree. Instagram's probably one of the most popular platforms out there. However, are they utilising it to the best of their advantage?
for the masses, God no.
And
for
this
the
is not
masses,
an
no.
attack on
No,
anyone
God, no,
listening
not
or
at
anything
all.
like that. It's
Not
just
at all.
that there's room for improvement.
Of course, there's room for improvement in mine as well. You know what I mean? Obviously, everyone has room to improve in some way, shape, or form. But when it comes down to personal brand, you just want to make sure that people know that you're the person to speak to.
And that was my biggest takeaway
Yeah.
from the seminar. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I'm pretty much on. You guys have pretty much answered for me. But,
Well, we asked you the question, so
yeah, you did. No, you, like everything both of you guys said, it was an interesting takeaway. I mean, there was for me there was so many different things. I think like we've discussed before, myself and Chris and you, we mentioned that there was a lot of sales tactics, but when it was nothing to do with sales, for example. Like the first one was, what was her name from My Budget? Tammy Burton, I think it was, or Bart, something like that.
Tammy, yeah.
It was nice and refreshing to listen to her, to someone that, who is taking the fintech, I think it is, world by storm with this whole My Budget business. That started here in Australia. She's not even 40, and it's servicing up. I think it's about 65,000 clients at the moment. And she's only done that within a 15-year period.
Just seemed like a powerhouse of a girl too, hey?
Yeah,
she just seems like she's done the hard yards.
At the start,
she's fucked up.
I was kind of looking at her I'm not interested. But
then you listen to it. Yeah.
Into it, I was like, hang on, this is pretty cool. Like where she's come from and her background and stuff like that. And I don't think many people probably would have, because she was the first speaker. I think even though everyone was pumped up, but they would have forgot about her when where's Gary? Where's Gary? Everyone wants to see Gary. But I think it's also good to see people that are absolutely crushing it here in Australia.
Correct.
We sometimes overlook these people, unless they're Insta famous or something like that. But what about the people that are doing big things in this country already, And before the era of social media, you feel as though they've come in with a bit more money to kind of explore. And one thing I took away was the use of illustrations in regards to advertising and stuff like that. That's massive at the moment because it's the easiest way to explain something that is so technical through a basic colour illustration, and straight away for our business here at Luxand, I jumped on the phone the next day to get in or that day actually, during that seminar, I messaged around and I said I need to get in contact with a really good person that can do cartoon
animation stuff.
Whatever. And just looking at the simplicity of it, and you go, it is such a simple thing. It's for children when you think about it, but we're dealing. This is the world. There's so much out there. Is that we really do need to start simplifying things with social media now, because it is becoming a complex beast, and it is really the only form of marketing. So how can we now, make things even more simplified, because things are that easy for people to access? We need to make sure that our message gets across like that, as opposed to, taking, or not so much taking photos, but look at me, I'm the king of doing this. People don't care about that anymore. They just want to know how's it going to work for me, and if you can explain that the easiest way. So I think that was, as a summary, that was a big takeaway for me, Tammy, and My Budget. That My Budget business, which is I'm sure everyone's probably seen that on TV and heard it on the radio. I think radio, they did a lot of. She said that, I'm pretty sure.
She did. She said she used a lot of radio advertising, especially in the beginning. Not as much now, she said, but definitely in the beginning of her journey, she used a lot of. And then
it's even funny now. Like talking about what we just said earlier about Zah mentioned it. The TV, the corporates, when they get involved, it's going to be like TV and radio in regards to advertising.
Yeah.
It's actually starting to get like that already. Like some of the adverts we hear on, for example, Spotify every now and then, and
Spotify or YouTube.
YouTube's
a big one for that. You notice that they're obviously in that space now where people are fucking buying into that.
Pretty much every video you watch now online,
you're going to add for sure,
beforehand.
100%.
And the adverts are of commercial grade scale.
Correct.
They're not just kind of like...
No, they're fully well produced commercials.
That's why it's even more important for the small people
Correct.
like ourselves to now go, all right,
Upskill.
we need to go to the next... We need to spend that extra bit of money to make our stuff look like it is broadcast worthy, and not just, me in front of a camera going, oh, we bought a property for a client. Like, that's cool. Next. It's not even interesting, I've seen it firsthand. Our actual adverts on Facebook, when I'm on a link or something like that, the in-stream adverts, I think it is, or whatever it is, but like just a photo, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so shit. I've got to reformat the whole advert now, because it didn't catch my attention, And the only reason it popped up was because I'm into property or whatever, so it's an easy target. But after looking at it as a consumer and seeing it come up in a news article or whatever it was that I was looking at, I was like, okay, this is why it needs to be bold, colourful, get your message across so quickly, because you've only got not even 2 seconds to capture that person's attention.
And especially in that sort of stuff, the copy has to be really quick. Like the copy has to be really bold, understood straight away at the same time too.
As the,
Correct.
Practically the thumbnail.
So for anyone, sorry, I apologize. For anyone that doesn't know what the copy is, it's the writing in the text.
Yeah.
It has to be fucking so bold and understood straight away, because otherwise you've lost the customer already.
That's how fast we're moving, guys.
Correct.
That's just to let you know how fast.
Correct.
We're moving. So if you want to
the two things I took away from what you just said about Tammy's, because it wasn't a pitch. She wasn't selling anything. You know what I mean? She was just telling people about her service, but it was a story-based sell. Because you just said at the beginning, you didn't give a fuck what she was saying. You know what I mean? Then she told her story, and you were really interested after that. You know what I mean? I'm sure if there was a sell at the end of that, you probably would have been more inclined to buy, because you know her story now, right? So I think the story-based selling on that point is fucking huge, and I think everyone should be doing that regardless. You know what I mean? So
well, everyone's got a story.
Exactly.
Everyone comes from somewhere.
100%. And everyone can talk about adversity, and everyone can talk about wins too, you know what I mean? Because everyone's had them.
The thing is, I think back in the old days, it was kind of frowned upon to talk about your mistakes and your failures. And I think we've talked about this a lot on many of our podcasts. And I think where we're heading now, there's so much transparency in business. So people want to see the hurt that you've gone through and the pain and the conflict. And when you think about like a movie, for example, there's always some sort of pain or conflict.
Correct.
Some sort of struggle.
Every movie, every TV show, every this, every that. Even if it's Friends, someone gets broken up with or something, you know what I mean?
Because it can't be like happily ever after from the start.
No, of course.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because then you get bored.
Exactly.
It's just too positive. You need some negativity in there
to spice it up.
That's right.
Correct.
Because you need to sort of think, okay, there's a solution that
just gave me a good idea for any marketing that we do in the future. If you're going to do a small video, make it look like there's a problem first, and you guys come to fucking fix it.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah, you got to look like the superhero at the end of the day.
Where I was going with that is like I talk about my story, for example.
Correct.
There was a lot of struggle through it, and you know I've had to work 3 jobs, 4 jobs to get my first deposit for a house, and got fired from nearly every job that I had, and a lot of the adversities now I can look back and laugh at them, but at the time it felt like the whole world was caving in, but you know what, my story interests people. Like people love that. It's very inspiring, and and I like to read other people's stories that are of similar sort of stature. You know what I mean? So, it's what the audience want. So for our listeners out there, just tell your story. Yeah. Everyone's had some sort of struggle in their life, but also had some sort of success in their life.
Correct.
Like what was his name? Scott Harris, I think he said, you want to sell a product, and he said if you're making, call it 60,000 a year, and you can't sell to
speak to people that are making 30.
30, yeah.
Correct.
Like everyone's had a win, and even if that win is a grand final at a local soccer game or something like that.
To someone, you're an expert.
Exactly.
To someone, you're an expert.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, to people out there that have never been on a talking podcast before, we are experts right now. But there are people out there that have a team to do their fucking podcast for them that are better than us at it. You know what I mean? But it's just being that little bit ahead of the people around them if you're going to do stuff like that. The other thing I learned from what you just said then too, and this is something that you did in there, the people who get the best out of those events are not the people that just take notes onto the stuff, the people that implement while they're fucking in there. Yeah. You said you contacted someone while you were in there to make to try and find something to help make an animation at the same time too. I contacted 2 people while we were in there to make sure that I had some stuff done for PR and another marketing thing as well. Because if it's on your mind right then, get it out.
That's right. Yeah.
Get it out and implement it straight away. Otherwise, you're probably going to forget. Especially after a day like fucking 14-hour day you think you're there for. You're going to forget shit.
I mean, that's something Zah's told me, and even with a couple of things that have been going on in his life at the moment in regards to decision making and whatnot. It's about executing on the smaller things straight away.
Yep.
Do them straight away. Like if it's not going to leave the company or your life or anything in tatters in the next 10 minutes, then get them done right now. Get the message out there, get that email out there, make that call. At least it's done. There's notes that way on your phone that you've done something.
Correct.
And someone will get back to you eventually. But when it comes time to make the bigger decisions, obviously hold back, analyse, and then execute.
Have a good think about it.
Well, we're giving ourselves an excuse to procrastinate if thinking about it, you know what I mean? And it's the easiest thing to do, to kind of go, I'll just do it later or tomorrow.
Correct.
And and eventually you don't actually get those things done.
Well, I think exactly on that. I think the one thing I learned from reading Grant Cardone's book, The 10X Rule, was if you've got something on your mind, fucking do it now, and obviously do it to the best ability that you can at the same time too.
Yeah, what's the wait for?
Yeah, exactly. What's the wait for? But obviously, you automatically it's done. It's out of your head. You don't need to worry about it again. You know what I mean? So it's good in that respect too. But yeah, I was a big fan of that whole event, and I think that the idea that Mark and I are trying to get across here is the attitude towards selling. If you're going to do it, provide a lot of value at first. You know what I mean? So the one thing that I noticed with everyone that was up there, a lot of them weren't necessarily providing value as such. They were just talking about their wins, as opposed to providing actual value for the people up there at the same time too. And I remember Gary came out and said, I'm not going to sell you guys anything today because I think you guys know what fucking selling looks like. After the past 5 people that literally try to throw things in, I throw it at the same time too. You know what I mean? So with that, I think it was quite nice to note, you know, if you're going to sell anything, just make sure that you do provide a lot of value in the forefront, so people see you as someone that's capable of providing.
Well, it's the way the world is going now, because as we've mentioned time and time again, we've got access to the internet, mobile phones, and instant access. We can find out if someone's being dodgy.
Yeah.
We can find out if someone's not telling the truth. You know. And there's 1,000,001 other people that we can get in contact doing the same thing.
Correct.
That we're trying to do in regards to business, that is, you know. So it's like, well, you know, now it's all about trust at the end of the day.
Correct.
And then that is for anyone doing anything, even in relationships. I mean, at the end of the day, well, not that I know of anyone, but you don't just get on one knee and ask a girl or a guy or whoever to propose and marry them straight away, because
can be a guy now.
You just saw them down the street. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you get to know them. You build the relationship.
Trust, ask all the right questions, make sure that you know enough about the person that they're not fucking nutcases and not going to stab you. You know what I mean? This is a more relationship thing than anything else. Could be business too, I'm not sure. But yeah, you're going to build a relationship and make sure that the person that's buying off you trusts you. You know what I mean? So that's always going to come through value. More of it. But the one thing that I do want to add to that is make sure that once you provide a lot of value, make sure you do ask for the sell at the same time too. Because obviously, if you're not asking for the sell, you aren't providing the real service on how you can actually help them. You know what I mean? Because they can only implement so much themselves without actually having a person there that's going to say and keep them accountable for all the other things they need to do, or the service that you're going to provide them as well. So always go through the process of asking all the right questions, making sure the value is provided at the same time too. And then when you are trying to sell them something, make sure that you've gone through all their pain points and shown them that you can actually provide the service that's going to help kill those pain points for them. And that's the point when you can actually be confident enough to say that it'd be silly if you didn't sign on with our services, because we can see that this pain point's there for you right now, and all we want to do is help. So really, they're just paying for value. You know what I mean? So it's still value in the long run. You just want to make sure that they're getting extra value for that too. You know what I mean? I think that's the best way to go about it too.
Yeah, definitely.
What's your mindset on it, Zah?
I think I'm in agreement with you guys. Just it's more so adopting that long-term mindset.
Correct.
So, like I have this really interesting way of doing sales, and it's just being their friend.
Yeah, correct.
I mean? Just be do the right thing.
Yeah.
Right? Be their friend, be likable, be someone that, they want to be around. And what will happen is that they'll eventually want to do business with you.
Correct.
People want to do business with good people. Like, I don't know anyone that wants to do business with bad people. Why would you want to do business with bad people, right? So if you're genuinely a good person and you genuinely care and you actually show that, then people will want to do business with you and give you their money.
Correct.
But if you, from the very beginning, are looking like you're hungry for money and that's you're just hungry for the sale and that's it, then generally the most of the time those people aren't going to buy from you.
Correct.
So I always say, just build that relationship and that sale will always come.
I agree. And look, boys, it's probably wrapping up here at this point. Again, thank you so much for coming back today at the same time. I'm excited that the people will very, very, very much love having you two back as well. And I think we should definitely set up another time to do it quite soon as well. For the people listening out there, obviously this is the School of Struggle podcast, but where can we find you for your Grow Your Future?
Grow Your Future with Luxland, so just on iTunes as well. Yep. It's just available on iTunes at the moment.
It's just called Grow Your Future?
Grow Your Future, cool. Yeah. Grow Your Future with Luxland, but just type in Grow Your Future, you'll find us. But we are working on getting it onto Spotify as well.
Cool.
And
they've just opened that up, haven't they? Cool.
Yeah. So at the moment we've just got it on iTunes, but and then there's our website and stuff like that as well.
Luxlane.com.au. Cool. That, and obviously your own 2 personal socials are
Marc Fattore
and Zah Azmi.
Zah Azmi, and obviously mine as per usual is at the Chris M. And if you want to catch me on my website, it's successandnothingless.com.au. And guys, again, thank you so much for listening. If you can do me a huge favor, subscribe to the podcast, leave a comment and a review, and tell a friend to tell a friend about it. But again, boys, thank you so much for being on today, and I'll catch all you guys soon.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Bye.
Peace.